Fill her up.
You're listening to the Gas Digital Network.
With ROBB FLYNN.
What up? What up? What up, podcast party people? How you doing? How you living? How you feeling? Me, myself, I'm a little tired right now. I don't know why. I'm not sure why. I worked out. I should be all energized. But I'm a little groggy. Worn out, man. You know, sometimes life just leaves you like that. It's a little worn out. I think we're waking up every fucking night for like 3 hours. Can't get back to sleep. I'm like, motherfucker. You're a motherfucker. I drink my tea before I go to bed. I got this like sleep tea, but like, I don't know if it really works. I don't know if it helps. I don't think it does. I think it's like the type of thing where it's a nice placebo, but that's about it. But I put this calm shit in it sometimes. Whoa, what's going on here? I got a little prompt on my podcast here. What's this? What is that? Okay, I don't need that. Yeah, just go back to here. Yeah, I don't need any of that. Yeah, what? Exit, motherfucker. Exit. Yes. Boom. There we go. Back to my time. I must have hit the button or something. We got a great podcast for you, man. I tell you what. Billy Graziadei, the Italian, he makes the artichoke hand. Graziadei from Biohazard. It was a good one. It was funny and, you know, pretty meaningful and deep, and you know, it chronicles the ups and downs of being in a band, and that was really great. I'm super glad that he came on the podcast. Super stoked. It's been, let's see, I'm just about done with Game of Thrones. Me and my son Wyatt have talked about this a couple times now. That we've been rewatching Game of Thrones. I'm reading the Game of Thrones book. I'm rewatching Game of Thrones. I'm reading the Game of Thrones book on my iPad, by the way. That's how I read books. I'm going to read it on my iPad, which I love. I'm never reading a book again. Like a hardcover book. Ugh. Such a pain. My wife reading next to me. It's got the fucking bright-ass light and fucking you got to hook it on. I'm just like, fuck that shit. iPad, bro. Anyway, fuck, that series is so good, man. And we're in the last 2 episodes. I talked to Craig LaCicero yesterday for 3.5 hours. My throat's like, but such a good show. God, it's so much good stuff. And shit this is my 4th time I watched it. Ginevra and I watched it twice. And then we watched it again with our oldest son when he was like a few years back. And now we're watching it with our youngest son. And, it's just such a good show, man. So many good things. So many, even like 4 times in, we're still catching like little details that we missed the first couple times around, and, you know, storylines, and, you know, especially because we watched it in real time. So when the seasons were, you know, you'd watch a season and then you get to the end of the season and then you'd have to wait a year for the fucking next season to start. Now we're just watching it all in one. And in some ways it makes it flow better, you know, and it flows surprisingly good, you know, considering there was all that time. I think the show ran for 8 years, and I can tell you the series is a lot different than the book. You know, it's a lot, like right now in the book, I'm reading a section and it's taking, I can't wait till this chapter wraps up because it's going on for fucking ever. And it's literally nothing in the book. And it's so boring. Like nothing is happening. And I could see why they admitted that. Like they omitted that when they made the series. Like this is fucking boring. Like this is it's literally just dragging on and on and on. And I never say this. I almost always think that a movie is better than a book. You get so many more details, but I think because it was just such a popular show and they made 8 seasons, they had to fill in space. They had to add storyline. They had to add character development that they didn't have enough room for in the book, which is crazy because it's always the opposite of that, right? Like the book always has all this character, and the movie is just like, I can think of, was the Da Vinci Code. The Da Vinci Code book was fucking mind-blowing. Such an amazing book. The movie was really disappointing. I mean, they did as good a job as they could in the constructs of whatever, 2.5 hours or 3 hours. But this is different, because it's a series. It's a lot more time. And, I highly recommend it if you've never done it. We're just finishing up with the last 2 episodes. We're going to catch probably tonight and tomorrow will be the last 2 episodes. We'll get through it and be like, all right. But, it's crazy. And I got to say, like, I just fucking love, there's so many great characters in that show. Tormund Giantsbane and Brienne of Tarth and, like, I swear to God, I'm shocked that the only person who's really broken out of the show was Khal Drogo, who is Jason Momoa, Aquaman. Like, he's the only dude. He's really the only dude who's gone on to, like, have, like, a great success. And there's so many fantastic, Cersei Lannister and Jaime Lannister and Tyrion Lannister and, even Lord Baelish and Sansa and Arya, like, all these Jon Snow, like, great actors and actresses that, maybe they were just burned out after fucking Game of Thrones, or maybe people just can't, sometimes when an actor becomes so famous, a Jon Snow, a Tyrion Lannister, a Cersei Lannister, even like Joffrey Baratheon, who, he's not in all the seasons, but people just, they fucking hate them or they love, like that they can't get that image of the actor or the actress out of their head. And I think sometimes like movie companies are like that, or series is like that, where they just, I think Tyrion's in a couple of movies. I haven't, or a couple of series. I haven't seen Jon Snow in anything. I haven't seen Daenerys Targaryen in anything, and she was fucking, God, first 3 seasons of the fucking show, she's just naked, just these fucking perfect tits, and she's just fucking naked every episode. Like, it's fucking great. It's so much violence and sex and just fucking treachery and just, fantasy and dragons, and it's fucking White Walker. Oh, it's so good. Like, I love it. Like, I love it. And it's cool to watch it with your family. It's cool to watch it with my kids, like, both times, to, like, because we know what's coming up. Ginevra and I know, like, big scenes coming up, but, to, like, watch, I'm not even going to go into any spoilers if you've never seen it, but we just watched the 3rd episode of the last season, which is like a fucking jaw dropper. You're like, oh my God. And to turn around, like, both of it, we were barely even watching the show. Like, we just were basically watching our son because we knew it was going to come, and we looked at him. He was like, oh my God. It was just like, oh, you're like, holy shit. We're like, right. It was so fucking crazy. And fucking just those little moments are killer. They're killer. You got to hold on to those little moments, man. Man, what a horrible week for abortion rights. I am very empathetic to the ladies of North America who, we just found out that the Supreme Court documents were leaked that said that they are getting ready to overturn Roe versus Wade, which is the woman's legal right to get an abortion in America. And that's been going for 5 decades, has been the case, but we've got a bunch of fucking wacko shithead Christians up in the Supreme Court, with one of our Supreme Court justices, his wife literally wanted to overthrow the government. And yet somehow they just stay there because apparently once you become a Supreme Court, like you're basically unfuckwithable. And that goes for, I guess, congressmen and women too, especially Republicans who can just break the law at will and face zero consequences. But, we've reached this point here where, it got leaked. It is authentic and they are planning on turning it over, but, it's not supposed to be leaked. And women are up in arms in this country, like flipping the fuck out, and rightfully so. People should be fucking genuinely furious. And, there's no rights that say a man's got to force a man to get a vasectomy if it gets a chick pregnant, or force him to get sterilized, But women got to carry it to term and then nobody cares. So, yeah, it's fucking getting crazy here. It's getting really crazy. Like really, really, like when the judicial system goes, I read a lot of history and I watch a lot of history. When the judicial system starts to fall apart, that's usually when a country is in decline. When the judicial system can't honor the laws because of partisan politics or whatever the case, that's when shit really starts to go haywire. So, these guys, some of these people that came on the court, they came on in the 80s, in the 90s, fucking 3 decades ago, swearing up and down that they would never roll back Roe versus Wade, and now here they are. And a woman's right to have an abortion, making it illegal for women to have abortion. And it's not going to stop abortion. Just so we're clear on that. Like, women are still going to get abortions. Like, chicks just aren't going to fucking raise kids, like, especially if dudes bounce. Because fucking dudes are deadbeat dads and bounce all the fucking time. Fuck a girl, get her pregnant, and then they're just like, late. Yeah, dudes are going to bounce, and, chicks are going to go get an abortion. They're just going to get it illegally. They're going to go to another state. They're going to go to another county. They're going to go to another country if they have to. That's what used to have to happen. I went to the Women's March back when all of this first started happening last year. And, listened to all these ladies speak, and there was so many older ladies, and I say older ladies, like they're not that old, 65 years old, a 65-year-old lady gets raped and she tries to go get an abortion, and she lives in a state where you can't. And, she has to go fly to fucking California or some other state to get it done. And it's all, back alley stuff. And it was pretty rough, man. And, getting this stuff taken away that was enshrined in the 70s into the Constitution, it's, you don't go backwards. You don't, man. And, yeah, that's where we are. That's where we are today. So, my hearts go out to all the ladies. I will stand alongside you. I will march alongside you. I will protest alongside you because I believe in your right to have a safe and legal abortion. And I'm probably not going to post about it on social media because I find that posting on social media doesn't really do anything nowadays. Just kind of goes into the vacuum of the internet, and you might feel better, but it doesn't really make any change. And, maybe other than bring awareness to it, which, I think everybody's pretty aware of it at this point. So anyway, I don't want to get off on a whole tangent about that stuff. I do want to get back to Billy from Biohazard being on the show. I do want to get back to, if you're a big fan of the happy hours that we do, well, this Friday, coming up, this Friday, May, whatever it is, 5th, 6th, it's going to be Electric Wrappy Hour. That's right, Electric Wrappy Hour going to be happening. Going to jam some Rage Against the Machine, going to jam some Biohazard. Going to jam some Linkin Park. Going to jam some of the more rap-ish songs in the Machine Head catalog, Thousand Lies, Triple Beam, From This Day. Mixing it up, just having a good time, just fucking around with some, trying to make every show a little bit different, every week different. If you're a big fan of the happy hours too, I just want to let you know, as the record gets closer, we have a new record dropping August 26th of Kingdom and Crown. Head over to 10-Ton Trading Co., 10tontradingcompany.com. And you can pre-order vinyl and long box CDs and digipacks with bonus tracks and box sets and flags and shirts and merchandise and hoodies and all kinds of stuff. We got tons of shit over there. But, yeah, if you head over there, we got that coming up. And as it gets a little closer, as we get closer to the release, we are going to wind down on the happy hours. We're going to, unfortunately, I know it's been great throughout the whole pandemic. For 2 years, we did the happy hours. Started out as acoustic happy hours and then eventually went into electric happy hours. And, we're finding, what we're going to do is, we're finding that Facebook, we started out broadcasting only on Facebook, and it always started off at 500 or so and then dropped down to 250. Or it started at 1,000 and dropped down to 500. Somewhere about a year ago, we started doing it on Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube. And to our surprise, the Twitch numbers and the YouTube numbers, as the show went on, consistently went up. They never went down. Maybe at the very ass end of it, they'd go down a little bit. But it's never been the drop that Facebook has been. And what we're finding now is that there's a big spike right at the beginning of the Facebook Live when we go live for happy hour. But then within like 4 or 5 songs, it's down to half. And then by the end, it's down to just 100 people. And so what we're going to start doing is we're going to give Facebook the first few songs. And then if you want to continue watching, head over to the Twitch channel, head over to YouTube, and you can continue to watch it there. But from now on, Facebook is just getting the first few songs. As we go on tour, and obviously we won't be able to do electric happy hours anymore because we'll be doing live performances, actual live performances, we're going to give a little bit of a teaser on Facebook, 1 or 2 songs, a little bit of a teaser on YouTube, and then head over to the Twitch channel, which is my Twitch channel, Rob Flynn, twitch.tv/Rob Flynn, for a subscriber-only full broadcast, where it'll be the full broadcast of the show. But we'll give you the first couple of songs on YouTube. We'll give you the first couple of songs on Facebook. But if you want to watch the whole show on a regular basis, maybe once a week, maybe twice a week, depending on what's going on, head over. And the subs only, we'll be able to watch that shit. So, that's the kind of plan moving forward. So start preparing to not see. I'm going to have to do press coming up here in June, press for the record. So we're going to have to take a couple of weeks off for that. So it's going to get more and more sporadic with the happy hours. But if you've been a longtime follower of the happy hours, thank you for tuning in for this last couple of years. They've been awesome. And I definitely foresee us continuing them when we're off the road. I definitely foresee Jared and I, because they're fun and we love them and we love playing them and we love interacting with you guys in this manner. It's very, very cool. Of Kingdom and Crown, August 26th. Go check out the video for Choke on the Ashes of Your Hate. If you have not done that yet, head over to 10tontradingcompany.com and check out some of the sick merchandise and physical formats that we've got over there. And let's play some Biohazard for all of those unfamiliar with Biohazard. You gotta play, let's see, Shades of Grey right here. Total banger. From the album Urban Discipline. My future, present, and past. Who are you to infringe the values upon me? I don't know, stepping on my toes, you put the wall. Sick. That groove is hard, bro. That groove is hard. That song's called Shades of Grey. I'm gonna play. I gotta play something on the other. For some reason, their debut album is not on Spotify. It's only on Apple, so I got to go to head. I'm gonna play this song. This is the first Biohazard song I ever hear, or that I can remember hitting me. It's called Victory. This is a fucking jam right here. Whoa, loud. Life, a losing battle. Existence, I abhor. Lives condemned by sins, those who lived before. Destroyed. World of confusion. Victory or death. The only solution. Shit's hard, bro. Hard, bro. Okay, I got to pause it to go back to... Fortunately, have to pause it to go back to Spotify. This is black and white and red all over. This is Tales from the Hard Side. Back then, everybody had to have a movie intro. Like everybody, that was it. You had to have a movie intro. Tales from the Hard Side. But if you didn't know, Billy GRAZIADEI also did numerous other projects, including a project with Sendog from Cypress Hill called Powerflo. This is the track off of their album. This song's called Resistance. #1 track on Spotify for them. Cool intro. Cool groove, right? It's a cool jam right there. Cool in the headphones too when I'm listening on headphones. So this is, and then it gets heavy. And then he also has a solo album out right now called Leaders and Liars. This is one of the songs off of it. Popular song, One Life to Live. A lot more melodic than Biohazard, which I dig. But Billy's got a good voice for this. This is a song called Turn the Wounds. Let me skip all. Kind of a typo negative vibe. And he grew up with Peter Steele, so not surprising. But I tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to get into it here with the mighty Billy GRAZIADEI from Biohazard. Billy GRAZIADEI. Billy Bio.
What's up?
How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks for having me, bud.
It's awesome to see you.
It's been way too long. I know. It's awesome to see you, too.
It's been I was trying to think when the last time that I actually saw you or was around you. I want to say we ran into each other in LA in front of the Fonda Theater at one point.
Yeah, you were doing acoustic. You were doing a...
Oh, is that what that was? Okay.
No, we saw Gorilla Biscuits. No. Burn. Yeah.
Oh, we saw somebody. Yes.
So it was a...
It was like one of the post-punk bands.
Yeah. Not Gorilla Biscuits.
No.
What's his name's? Yeah.
It's the band that the Deftones bass player came from.
Yeah, it's Jesus Christ. And he's no longer in the band anymore.
It was anyway, that was the last time I think we saw each other. Yeah.
Quicksand. That's what
Quicksand,
it was.
yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. No, you been good?
Yeah. You know how it is. New records and all you do is talk to people on Zoom. It's like you think that your record's going to come out after mask mandates are over. And you're like, oh, cool, we could do in-person interviews over beers and hanging out. And it doesn't happen.
No, everybody's just like, I'm doing it on Zoom. I don't really want to talk.
With the
I really wanted to talk to you.
Exactly.
Yeah. I saw you. You're a black belt now, huh? In jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, for quite a few years now.
That's fucking awesome, dude. That's killer. I mean, that's from the... Yeah, I think you guys were just starting with the Gracie kid when we were doing the Slayer tour back in '95, right? I can't remember his name. Yeah, that was
Kazeka.
Yes,
a fun story. That kid. So yeah, we met this kid. First UFC happened in '93. We searched around all New York for trying to find somebody that could teach us Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. There was nobody on the East Coast. Through Vinny Stigma's sister. They were a big Wing Chun family. Not many people know this, but Vinny Stigma, besides his awesome career as a comedian and a great guitar player, he's a Wing Chun expert. But his sister introduces this kid. We took him on that tour with us and Slayer and you guys.
What was his name?
Kazeka Muniz.
Kazeka, that's right. Yeah.
Bro, but remember they fought? There was a couple guys in the Slayer crew that we had these little like UFC matches. Remember that?
Right.
And but that kid, I don't know if I ever told you this. He told us he was, if you guys, anybody's a fan of Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, it's a real funny story. But the godfather of Gracie Jiu-Jitsu is Elio Gracie. This kid said that his mother was his sister, so he had a different last name. We were like, and New Yorkers, we don't believe anybody, we don't trust no one. But this kid, because we were so excited to train this new style of martial art, at least new to us, we hung on every word he said. And it was awesome.
Right.
And then we found out it was all bullshit. This kid.
Shit.
It was so fucking bullshit. One day I went to, we did a record in LA, and I went to Hicks and Gracie's studio. And I walk in wearing this T-shirt. And one of his black belts, or his brown belt at the time, and he said to me, "Hey, my friend, where did you get that T-shirt?" I'm like, "It's my friend Kazeka." "That's Kazeka, that motherfucker. He stole my fucking brown belt." I'm
like, my God.
This opened up such a can of worms, bro. Anyways, so that was my beginning of jiu-jitsu 30 years ago.
How does he steal somebody's? What does that even mean? He stole his brown belt.
Yeah, bro. This kid, and he's like a legit world champion now. But at the beginning of his career, he just wandered around. We all have crazy past, and whatever our stories are. But he was just in a rough place, I think, coming up. He grew up in Venezuela, not Brazil. So he didn't even speak Portuguese, he spoke Spanish. But he knew enough Portuguese to fool us. And it'd be like, anyways, it's so far removed from rock and roll and metal and what we both do in our lives. It's just a part of my life that always kind of kept me grounded for the most part.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. It's a killer discipline. And I took jujitsu when I was like 3rd grade to 8th grade. And I loved it, man. I really.
I didn't know that.
I had an awesome sensei. His name was Wally J. And he, I was pretty introverted as a kid. I was pretty quiet. And he really just took me under his wing and just, I'd get there 45 minutes before class. I'd stay 45 minutes after. Like, I was fucking obsessed with jujitsu, dude. And he would just spar with me. He would just spar and he would just constantly be like, you strong like bull, and as a kid, just hearing that over and over and over again, you strong like bull. Like, it was just awesome. It really just gave me tons of confidence. And, it was already a pretty, I'm not sure how long a normal jujitsu class is nowadays, but it was an hour and a half back then, which, it's a pretty long class.
Especially for a kid with a short attention span. You want to get back to gaming,
Right. And
were you playing guitar back then?
No, it was before I played guitar. I was into music.
Yeah.
But I wasn't playing. I was singing just all the time, but I wasn't playing instruments. And it was so great, man. I really loved it. And I loved that. I loved the idea of it, that it was more like defensive, that you were always using your enemies or your opponent's weight against him or his moves against him. And, that was always kind of cool aspect to it that I thought was.
Yeah. The translation is actually the gentle art. And it basically, it's created for the smaller, non-athletic opponent to beat somebody who's more athletic, bigger, stronger, faster. And it's all physics. It's chess. They say it's the PhD of all martial arts. It takes, forever to get a black belt, but that's great, dude. I think it's important for every person coming up to have like a great positive role model, and now we're both parents and we kind of try to do the same for our kids, but it's important. And I didn't have that as a kid. I wish I probably would have, who knows?
Right.
Where I would have been.
Right. Yeah. You didn't start jujitsu until you were like in your mid 20s or something, right?
No, it was, not early 20s. It was 1993. Yeah, it was probably, it was beginning of Biohazard, probably 22.
Right, right.
And the saying is, the most common saying, I think, in any martial arts studio is, oh, I wish I would have started when you started. I wish I would have started earlier. Same thing with music and guitar. I wish I would have started playing guitar first instead of piano, but piano is my main forte. That's my main instrument. Oh, and I'm more prolific with piano than on guitar. Always have been. But it's always like that. You kind of, woulda, coulda, shoulda.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, in some ways, whatever you did, it affects your life. It takes you, like, whatever path you go down, like that thing, inspires you, influences you. Without piano, you might not have the musicality that you have now.
100%. I owe that to my mom. And today's her birthday, actually.
Oh, birthday. Shit.
Yep. But yeah, she pushed me to study piano, and I did the same thing with my kids. But it was, as much as we rebel as little kids, and you're like, I want to go out and play with my friends, blah, blah, blah. She forced me to do it, and she was really cool about it. She wasn't like, my father was like a disciplinarian, and then she passed when I was a kid, and that turned into like this great, awesome foundation that, like you said, it led to my love, not my love for music, but it was the foundation that I built everything off of. Then I found punk rock and hardcore and realized you can just learn 2 or 3 chords and you can make a whole career out of it.
Right. Like, I'm learning all these notes on piano. What the hell am I doing here?
Wait, it's a lot easier. I had teachers. The first teacher, they were Mr. and Mrs. Cooper. You stayed with the wife until you got to a certain level, and then you went to the husband. Okay. She would hit me in the back of the hand every time that I messed up, and this day, you forget about it. You can't do that at all.
Right.
But she would smack me in the back of the hand if I made a mistake. And then I got to a point where I graduated to the husband. And I was like, cool. Now I'm like big league. I can hang out with the dude. This dude fucking, he's up-leveled it to fucking, he kicked me in the back of the head when I fucked up. And she was like,
if you miss a note, you're getting smacked in the back of the head.
And they were mad old school people. And they were just like, what are you wasting your parents' money for? You know how hard they work for your money. Now as a parent, I understand.
Right.
But back then they were just looking out for my parents' buck, you know. They knew they were paying top dollar to get these lessons. And like, you know, the guy, and eventually I stopped with them, and my grandfather and uncle were accomplished jazz and classical pianists. And they took me under their wing and taught me like improvisation and completely changed my world.
Oh, wow. That's super cool. So
Yeah.
your grandfather, is that what you said?
Yeah.
Yeah. Was a classically trained pianist.
Yeah. And jazz, phenomenal player. And he was actually a recording artist. I have like back in his day, they would rent out a studio and they would play live and it would go right to vinyl.
Right.
And they'd pay a lot of money and I have a whole box of these vinyls. And there was this one, you know, I listened to them all and they were awesome, but there's this one unique vinyl that stuck out, and they must have, I don't know. I mean, they didn't have much money. They were working class, but they were playing cards. So it must have been my grandfather, my grandmother, and maybe another couple. And I don't know who that was, but they were playing cards, and for some reason, and maybe they got a deal, but they recorded this conversation, them playing cards. And I remember hearing I was a little kid. I remember hearing my grandfather say to my grandmother after he passed, he said, she's made a joke like, I don't know, what should I do? And he said, back it was more innocent, but he said, I don't know. I'll tell you what I'll do to you. Which you never see we make jokes with our wives and our significant others, but do you hear your grandparents go back and forth because they're the kings and queens of the family.
Right.
And they never kind of they have a sense of humor, but they never go that deep into their personality when you're like the grandkid.
Certainly. Yeah, definitely not.
You know, so it's kind of odd,
like innuendo. It's almost like it's almost like you got to hear like a podcast between your grandparents or something, right?
Exactly, bro. Yeah. That's what it was. It was a podcast, a poker game podcast.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah.
That's pretty wild. I think that's crazy to think about, like doing an album like that now. Like you've got to be so rehearsed and know your shit so good that you're going to go in and record it live to vinyl. You know, like
not even live to tape where you could change your mind. It's live to vinyl.
Yeah. You know? Like that's the final thing that you're hearing right there. If it's on vinyl, that's the last stage. Like, right.
I know. That's funny. That reminds me of the story. Danny Schuler, Biohazard drummer. Him and I were partners in recording studios for a year. Great dude. And there came a time in early 2000s when he's like, I don't want to do this anymore. But this whole thing kind of turned as, of course we're still best friends, but as partners in a recording studio. He was in the studio one day and some kid said, it was a band that I was producing, but he was working a session. And the kid said, hey, that section's pretty cool. Just copy it and paste it. And Danny turned around. The assistant told me the story, but Danny turned around and said to the kid, listen, motherfucker, I came from the old school where you had 3 chances to play your fucking song right. You had to practice so much that 2 chances pretty much. Right. Third one, you're re-recording over tape and the quality sucks. So I'm not going to copy and paste. Learn how you fucking play your instrument and play it right. And I took Danny aside. I'm like, bro, these young kids, it's a change of times. It's digital. It's the way it is. You can't get like, goes, fuck that shit, man. And Danny's mad cool. And he was cool with the kid, but he was done with it. And that was it. That was the last time we worked together on a project. And he soon after that, I bought him out of the studio and now he just uses his skill as just home recording and stuff.
See, what I thought you were going to say was that he walked up and smacked him behind the head. Like, what the fuck? Yeah,
that would have been a cool story. I have a good memory, but when I get off into tangents, sometimes it gets a little clouded and Danny will call me up and say, that's not what happened. I'm like, yeah, it is. No, this is what happened. I'm like, oh, yeah.
Funny.
I don't know if it's the years of drug abuse and being sober and straight for years and going back and forth, or just I'm in my mid-30s.
Did you go back and forth though? I don't remember you really like. Did you have a later day drug era of Billy? Because you were pretty much sober through all like the early years of Biohazard, right?
Yeah, the early years. It was like not many people know this, but we named fucking Biohazard smoking crack. It's fucking such a crazy story. But we knew we were.
I thought, didn't Peter Steele have something to do with helping name the band?
Yeah, Pete suggested the name. We watched his band because we were big Carnivore fans, and we went to go see them rehearse down the street from where we rehearsed in Brooklyn. We watched them rehearse, and we were out hanging outside drinking beers, and he's like, so what do you guys think? And we were like, it's kind of slow. It's like really, they were called Repulsion. And we were like, what, how are people going to move to it? So fun. It was like, that band Sun AD?
Yeah.
It was the early Repulsion was like that. Now, some of those songs didn't make it on the record, but on Typo when they changed their name, but bro, it was so slow. It was, looking back now, Pete was always an innovator. Carnivore was innovative. Everything he was doing he even had a band called, I can't remember the name, before Carnivore, but regardless. So he said to us, I don't know, maybe they'll just kill each other. And you're like, fuck, this dude's fucking crazy. And Pete was always on something different. And he stuck to his guns, and Repulsion became Typo Negative, and they were fucking massive. But in those conversations during Repulsion era of Typo Negative, we still hadn't had a name yet. It was right at the beginning of Biohazard. And he said, he showed us Evan and I this magazine, flipped it open. He said, that's what you guys got to go by. Don't use the name. I can't even speak that low. Don't use the name, but just the logo, like Prince. That's what his concept was. And I was like, and looking back, and when Prince came out with that, I'm like, Pete fucking said that we should do that with Biohazard. We didn't go with it. My old man was a scientist. I worked in his lab as a little kid. And the minute Pete pointed that out, in the back of my head, I'm like, ooh, that's the shit. They make stickers already. We don't have to do anything. It's somebody, you just order from a medical catalog. And then we were sitting around a table in Canarsie. It was Evan, Mio, our first drummer, and myself and a bunch of buddies. And somebody hands me a fucking stem, and we have a list of names. I can't remember the other names. And Evan's like, so what are we gonna go with? And I'm like,
this is you smoking crack.
Yep. Bro.
Taking a hit of crack.
I'm like, let's go with
Is Evan smoking crack with you at this point too?
Yeah, bro.
Yes.
Evan, and then soon after that, Evan had a fucking heart attack and never went back to drugs. And I just talked to him recently. I don't want to get off of too many tangents, but that was the beginning. And I've only started talking about these, they're not these hidden gems of my history with pretty recent. And now that my kids, they're able to surf the internet, and my son will bring things up and talk to me and ask me questions like, did you Google me?
Right.
Because
you got to watch out for us. Their friends Googling you. And then they tell your son everything. That's what's happened to me a bunch of times. I'm like, you little fuckers.
I know. Because you want to lead by example. We have to, and I just, like they're at school, but anyways, it's almost, you got to lie to them. Just keep as much away from them, because you can't say to your kid, yeah, I fucking smoked weed. I did heroin. I fucking did everything. I smoked crack and my life changed.
Right.
Usually it's you smoke crack and it's a downward spiral. My life got better after smoking crack, ironically. But soon after that, I got clean, and so we all sobered up. Bobby had a tough time. And then over the years, when Bobby split, we split with Bobby. That's a whole other crazy story. And I don't want to open can of worms in case you have an agenda. Like, we want to stick to a certain thing, but
I have this can just go where, like, I mean, I've kind of got like things I want to talk to you about, but like wherever you want to go, like, I don't care.
Yeah, it's the history. I'm dying to talk about the new record, what I do now, but make a long story short. Yeah. The question was, have I gone back and forth? Yeah. I don't think when we toured together, we were drinking, because Danny and I
sober. Oh, everybody other than Bobby was sober.
Yeah. But so Danny and I would, like, on the sly party, but we want to support Bobby because he had a drinking problem.
Right.
So we didn't party in front of him.
Right.
So I remember one time coming home, and Danny and I went out. We come back to the bus, and Bobby was sober, straight as an arrow, and I'm fucking wasted, crawling on the tour bus floor. And I remember he said to me, "Fucking lightweights." And he always resented the fact that I would spend $15 and get lit. And I still had a pocket full of fucking money. He was always the mayor. He would go out and drink nonstop.
Yes.
And he also would buy
everybody drinks.
And
everybody drinks.
That's why to this day, still this day, he's the most popular and well-loved Biohazard member.
Yeah.
Because he besides being a great dude, that was how he was the mayor. Danny and I always called him the mayor, you know?
Funny.
So, and then when we split with him, then we got back in, and then it was, you know, back into drugs and alcohol again, and then sober, and then back straight again, and teeter back and forth. And it was always a struggle. And then in the middle of the pandemic, I had like maybe 6-7 years. My wife every day, who's God love her, she's on her way home from Brazil right now, and I'm expecting her to walk in the door as soon as we get off the interview. But she said she's a huge partier, awesome PMA, positive woman. You know how it is. They say every great man has a great woman standing behind them, but my wife likes to add smirking, because she sits there. She's like, yeah. She was on tour one time, and she said, after show, talking to everybody, you know, people by the bus, and somebody was brought up something. Oh yeah, you do jiu-jitsu guy, blah blah. And we were in Germany somewhere, and the kid's like, yeah, it's so awesome. What a great art. You're like a tough dude. You're kind of smaller in person than the pictures, but. And my wife goes, he's not that tough. Every night in bed, he's like, don't touch me with your cold feet. And I'm like, I look at her. I'm like, can you go on the
You're
bus?
like, damn, you just threw me under the bus hella hard.
You fucking blew my spot up. These kids are like praising me. You're not me. And the kids are looking at her like, who's that? I'm like, it's somebody hanging out.
Yeah,
So
security.
Back and forth. Sorry.
Yeah. Security. Get her out of here.
Yeah. So every day during pandemic, she was like, babe, have a beer. I'm like, no, man, please support me. I got 7 years or 6.5 years, whatever. And she said, she kept for a week straight. And finally, I'm like, give me a fucking beer. What broke the camel's back, she said, we could die tomorrow. We could absolutely die. Cut loose and have a good time. Let's have a beer together. I'm like, all right. And since then, I'm fine. I haven't toured yet. I haven't played any shows, but I'm fine. I think having enough time away from it and focusing so much on jiu-jitsu gave me enough of a foundation that I'm fine.
Right.
You know?
So you've been drinking since the pandemic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right on.
Yeah.
Right on.
I ain't afraid of shit. I did a podcast with Toby Morris, and we did a song together.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. And he's always liked the fact that I was sober and straight.
He's like, oh no.
But he never brought it up. So I didn't mention it. If he would have, I'd be like, yeah, man, I would have told him the same story, but he never brought it up. If he sees this, he's going to call me, dude, really? You fucking broke edge? But everybody breaks edge. That dude hasn't.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So God bless. To each his own.
I can't drink every day though. I used to drink a lot, and certainly in my 20s and 30s, I was just raging. It's kind of amazing that you didn't drink. You were on tour with Pantera like multiple times. It's kind of amazing that you were sober through all of that time.
I wasn't though.
Sober-ish. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, because Dime and I would get pretty close, and we would go out and get Taiwan on. Yeah. I'd smoke with Phil. None of the guys knew this. I would smoke with Phil, then I'd fucking drink shots after shots with Dime. And there's videos. I'm in their video. One of their videos, fucking butt naked, but my boxer shorts, fucking wasted with some birthday cake. And then, but that was my thing all through the years. Evan struggled with, not struggled, but it was a big thing for him, sobriety. Yeah. And he had me there. And I talked to him a couple weeks ago, and he told me this crazy story that he was smoking weed for like 3 years. He was addicted to weed. I'm like, what? Are you fucking kidding me? But everybody has their own trip, and you find your way in life. And I don't regret anything.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I can only drink like 2 days a week though now. Like if I do Friday and Saturday, like Ginevra and I, we do like ever since the pandemic, we started doing like a date night because our kids were old enough, and it was like I was like, okay, like we don't need to make sure everybody's okay. And, you know, like we can just go like kick it in the garage and listen to music and drink. And so like, we just, you know, there was nothing else to do. So we just started doing that. And it was just cool. Like, it's just a cool hang and just talk and laugh and cry or whatever the fuck we do, you know, like just, and listening to music and then that's good. And then, you know, like Sunday through Thursday, I'm sober as a judge, you know, like I just can't focus if I'm hungover, you know, like to work. I can't do podcasts. I can't fucking rehearse or just get whatever, you know, so.
Yeah, it definitely is a hindrance. And it's more so not partying. It's the recovery. That's what, for me on tour, it was jujitsu. And I like training so much on tour that I was like, yeah, I don't want to party because then I'm going to sleep through in the morning. And the only time you can train is like 9 a.m. in whatever bumfuck middle of Europe somewhere. So I would, you know, hustle up, go to sleep, not too early, but I'd wake up, get my training out of the way, and then come back. And at 11 in the morning, everybody's still half asleep or whatever. I'm wide awake and ready to go. And that helped me in the latter years. But the other thing we did was we invested in a CBD company and a THC company called Grapefruit. And that was pretty cool, but also
you and your wife did?
Yeah. And pushing the line is like you walk the line a little bit, you know, but I think being home for me so much and having 2 tours canceled off the new record sucks, but it's the first time we talked about this earlier. It's the first time we didn't miss any birthdays, any holiday.
Right.
Every anniversary. It was like awesome. And my wife never once said to me, it used to be, when are you going back on tour?
Right. At some
now
point.
It's just like, yeah, it's great to, you know, look forward to waking up in the morning, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure, man. I probably enjoyed, I've talked about this a lot on the podcast, but I've probably enjoyed the pandemic way more than I should ever say publicly that I enjoyed it. Because it was, you know, having fucking toured nonstop since 1988, basically. You know, like that's a long time, man. And you get in your mode and you release a record and then now you're on tour and it's the tour cycle and then it gets back and it's the album and it's like, it was just like, wow, like I'm slowed down. I'm here. Like my kids are like, when are you going on tour? And I'm like, I'm not, like, I'm home. They're like, really? For how long? I'm like, I have no idea. And it was great. Right. Like, it's great.
Awesome. You know what else too that you do with like all the live stuff? That is awesome, bro. I watched that from afar and it was like, wow. And I didn't do any of that. I recorded a lot, wrote a lot, and, you know, came up with a new record, 2 new records, and then wrote and produced a lot of records for other bands. But playing live, I miss it so much. And I saw you do that. I was like, wow, that's fucking awesome. I should do that.
Live streams. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are killer.
I never did it. All the guys I play with, everybody's with different bands.
Right.
I think that's, you know, if it was Biohazard, we all, you know, in the same neighborhood, then awesome.
Right.
But
tell me about this new record. Tell me about it. I was listening to some of the songs. I really love how like you've kind of incorporated this, and you've done this for quite a minute now. But like I just love this melody that you've incorporated into stuff. You know, like it's I don't want to say like maybe a little SoCal punk. Maybe that's where I'm connecting it to. But you know, maybe it's from someplace else. I don't know. But it's really cool to hear.
I think. Thank you. The funny story how that is. I always equated. Evan was always a melodic singer. For the Biohazard style of melody, he was the more melodic guy. I was the screamer and the yeller. But being Evan wasn't trained, didn't know about theory. He could play well and knew a lot. And he's definitely, I think he let go of a lot of things as he got more interested in other things that came with the music in the band, like girls and shit like that. But musically, I remember having a conversation with him and like, let's speak in terms of notes, not tuning. And he was like, no, that's confusing. So if we tune down to D, let's just call that E. I'm like, no, train your ear. This is the beginning of our career. I'm going to do this for my life. And that was one conversation. And then Bobby, I remember Bobby used to complain a lot because my riffs were chromatic. And it's all ties into what you're asking me about. But he said, he's like, it's so hard to play over your wrist because they're so chromatic. I'm like, yeah, I like them. I don't want to stay in key. He goes, like, you're a piano player. You know theory. Can't you just write something in key, at least for my lead beds? And I'm like, yeah, like harmonic minor, is that all right? And he's like, yeah, that's perfect. I said, cool. Okay, what about this? That song was fucking Punishment, our biggest fucking song ever. And I was like, maybe I should write a little bit, at least stick to some kind of form. But my whole shit comes back to being trained as a kid. And I always tell people this, learn as much as you can and then fucking ignore it all, throw it out and just play what's inside. So the influences for me from like melodic punk, and that came from like more like oi and sing-along melodies, like the early post-punk stuff.
Okay.
And then I do like a lot of bands like, you know, West Coast punk for Bad Religion, stuff like that, Pennywise, Rancid, but it was in the Clash. So there's a lot of different influences, but there was this dude I worked with, Toby Wright. I don't know if you know Toby Wright.
Yeah.
You guys work with him?
He mixed some live stuff for us one time. Yeah.
Yeah. So Toby, I always equated coming up with Biohazard. It was like playing piano. And then when I had kids, acoustic guitar, all that stuff was a different side of my personality. It was a different part of me. And even though I played piano here and there with Biohazard, there were two different worlds. I never could meld them together. And then Toby, he helped me cross this bridge. It was the last record we did with Evan. The last Biohazard record was called Reborn Defiance. And Toby helped me find this voice where I felt like I wasn't compromising my style of singing and my energy, but I could pepper in a little bit of melody. And I 100% all to him. And then he hooked me up with this Susan Carr, this vocal teacher. And then she helped me Toby helped me be cool with letting go of like, just because you sing with melody doesn't mean it's soft, you know? And it's not a diss. So soft is not a bad word. I love dynamics. You can't have black unless you compare it to white. Then the contrast shows the strength. Same thing with dynamics of music. It's soft and hard, fast and slow. But Toby helped me let go of that whole kind of stigma that I had. It was like holding my daughter or sitting in her cradle and playing like soft acoustic samba music. It was a different thing, or piano. Suddenly I was like, okay, a melody is a melody. And you could still sing it like Lemmy and still, you know, Lemmy and you and fucking James, everybody sings, they pulled it off. I just couldn't, I don't know what it was holding back, but Toby helped me cross that. And then when I went to, on the first Billy Bio record, it was called Feed the Fire. It came out in 2019 or end of 2018. Then I started to delve more into that. And it's just what I do now. So if there's ever a new Biohazard record, and we get back together with Evan, maybe I'll make him sing the heavy stuff and I'll sing more melodic.
Right. Is it what's this? Is it the song? Yeah. Rise and Slay.
That's the first record.
Yeah. That song though, to me, like really stood out like as a really cool, like melodic, like the whole guitar, like the guitar thing you were doing and the way you were singing it. And then the key change into the heavy part. It was fucking really, really well put together, man. Like it's a fucking banger. I'm going to play it in the intro. Like it's
thank you, bro. Rocking. Yeah. That's off the debut. That's the first one. It has here's a funny story. My Rise and Slay, to me, it's about getting up and it's just fucking whatever it is, your morning fucking ritual, drink a cup of coffee and just fucking kill the day. Whatever you got to do, go to work, fucking hustle your shit, write songs, whatever it is. And that's always been my thing. But my daughter said to me after, she goes, it's kind of weird, Ride and Slay. I'm like, what do you mean weird? It's like Viking Ride and Slay. Bring the fucking challenge. I don't look at things as problems. I always looked at them as challenges. And that's helped me overcome a lot of things. But she said, you know what slay is? I'm like, yeah, it's like fucking slaying the dragon. And she goes, no, it's like slay. It was like a word that the kids had that meant something totally different than I meant it. And I'm like, what do you mean? And she explained it. She goes, it's like slay, like I'm going to slay through like she
like a sled, like on a sled or something. A sled.
No,
slay.
No, it was more way softer.
Okay. Okay.
And she took all the wind out of my sails for a little bit. And I was like, nah, I prefer the Viking way of slaying a dragon way more, babe.
You know, most people know what is slay, you know, like pillage, plunder. Yeah.
But the younger generation says something different. There's a funny picture I remember seeing of Tom Araya and his family at the Grammys. And it was a picture of him, and I think it was his son. One of the kids made it. They were like smirking, and as parents, you know, like you bring your kids somewhere, and 5 minutes later, like, can we go home now?
Right.
Blah, blah. And you know the look on the face. The kid was like rolling his eyes, and the caption underneath said, "Even when you're as cool as Tom Araya from Slayer, you're still a boring dad."
Yeah, totally, totally.
Like, the kid's like this. Why do I have to be here at the Grammys with Tom Araya of Slayer? Right. The rest of the world would kill to have his ticket and to be hanging out with Tom, but his son was just like, get me the fuck out of here. Bring me to In-N-Out like you promised me.
Right. I'm over it.
Yeah.
Are we going to pizza after this?
Yep.
Tell me about the new record.
So the new record's called Leaders and Liars. Came out March 25th. And this is my every record, except for you guys. Most bands that I fall in love with, their second record is really the record that's just like, whoa. And it sets a pace for the record. It determines if there's going to be a record number 3 and 4, but your first one came right out of the gate and just knocked the fucking world apart. For Biohazard, it was Urban Discipline. It's like you make that first one, you have relatively speaking, you have your whole life to make that first record, but then you go on tour, you're hanging out together, you're sleeping on people's floors, you're playing those songs night after night, and you get close. But the music that comes out of that relationship is the second record that just, wow. And yours is a banger too, but for Biohazard, it wasn't until Urban Discipline. That's when we started to come to our own. And Leaders and Liars is a result of touring around, not a lot, super lot, but I came off the tour. We were it was February 2020. We were out with AF, Agnostic Front,
right.
Matt, Gorilla Biscuits, H2O.
You were doing the East Pack tour, right?
Yeah. Persistence tour. And then we came home and the world shut down. And so I kept that energy, and I had a bunch of songs I was working on. And then that record is a result of, lockdown.
I mean, that must have been a fun tour for you just either way. Cause like so many friends and, even
it was great.
People that inspired you and, right. Like,
yeah, to be like, the first hardcore band that I really fell in love with was AF. And I remember listening to Victim in Pain. The song comes on and there's this downbeat and the guitar's a little out of tune. And at the time it was new to punk rock, not new to punk rock, but this was like the first New York band. I was like, whoa, this is fucking awesome. But I still had all the memory of music theory in my head. And I'm like, how could they leave it out of tune? And I'm like, wow, it's not important how well you play. It's how you play it and how you deliver it.
Right.
And so it started to give me a little bit another angle to music. And then speed the clock ahead. I become close, become friends with Agnostic Front. We tour a lot. And I'm on the stage once on tour with AF. Then he turns to me. He's tuning between songs. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, it's not in. I wanted to say something and I didn't. And he turns to me and he's like this, close enough for hardcore, kid. And they started the song. And I was like, yeah.
Close enough for hardcore, kid.
It's a certain kind of thing that, like, that's what I love about, and I got to straight up, bro, coming from punk rock and hardcore, the guys in Biohazard turned me more on the metal. And then I was like, oh, this is fucking, they can play really well, but they got the fucking attitude and the fire. Whereas punk rock, it wasn't so important how well you played. It was more so just more attitude than anything else. And then even like Evan turned me on to the Ripper from Priest. And I was like, what's this? It's like, it's fucking awesome. Give it a chance. And I listened to it. I was like, whoa, holy fuck. Because I was one of the ones, like Biohazard, I think we knocked down a lot of barriers because you couldn't like hardcore and metal. And even though some people did, we were outcasts. If you liked, if you had long hair and you went to a hardcore show, I remember Scott Ian got chased out of CBGB's by the hardcore kids.
Right.
It was an era where, and vice versa, if you were a hardcore kid and went to a metal show, some of the metal kids were like, you fucking assholes, you fucked with me, you and your boys, now it's payback. That bullshit was destroying the scene. And Biohazard and you guys, Machine Head, we kind of were forefathers in breaking a lot of those barriers. But I was one of those dudes who, if it wasn't hardcore punk rock, I fucking hated it.
Okay.
And somebody handed me Rain and Blood once. It was before, when did Rain and Blood came out? Do you remember?
86.
Oh yeah. So it was way before Biohazard. And I remember hearing it, and it was on a cassette tape. And I was working at a fucking grocery store, and the tape, you remember how it would automatically flip over to play the other side?
Right.
So it was Septic Death on one side or Dayglow Abortions, one of the bands, I can't remember, but then it flipped over and it was Rain and Blood. And then I was busy doing something, stocking shelves or whatever I was doing. And it started playing. I'm like, cool. Then Tom comes in with a high pitched scream.
Right.
And I went to press. I'm like, fuck no. Because the other side was a pentagram. That's all it was. It was like, this
okay. Okay.
That's all I remember. It was the kid who gave me this mixtape or two bands on a cassette tape. But then as I was pressing stop or flip to the other side to my punk rock shit, Tom's voice got lower and I gave it a chance. And I was like, whoa, holy fuck. This isn't bad. This is amazing. Yeah. And then that was it. And then, so I started to appreciate more the heavier metal, like what I mean by heavier metal, like the heavier side of the metal world. And then bands like, I knew about Maiden, knew about Priest, but it was when what was the Ripper on? Like early Priest. You remember that?
That would have been on Sad Wings of Destiny, but probably made famous on the Unleashed in the East record, which was like right around, the beginning of the 80s. That record came out and got super popular because it had like the heavier versions of the songs.
So the guys turned me on to all that stuff. Bobby would, Maiden, and Bobby liked hardcore too, but we shared a lot of different tastes with each other. So I think all of my influences come out more so than ever as a solo artist. Because right. I don't have to fit a mold. I just
hear that. Flow. I really hear that. Like it's definitely, it's kind of refreshing to hear, if you were in Biohazard, I don't know if you'd be writing like this. And, it's definitely got a Biohazard feel to it. Like it's got the groove, and you definitely, you can hear the Danny Schuler type of grooves, because those are like fucking unfuckwithable grooves. But, it's still, it's got this other side of it, which is it's killer. The production's awesome. Like it's, everything sounds big and modern and cool and shit. Like I really I think you got something cool on your hands, man.
Thank you, bro. That means a lot. I've watched you, build your fucking awesome empire. So to hear, besides that, but it's nice we're in a world where we can't tour. I had 2 tours canceled. I don't know what you guys are doing, but it's now with the war, it's fucking, I don't know what's going to happen. Putin's not going to just give up. So yeah, I lost. It's not going to happen. So I'm fearing the worst. Who knows what's going to happen with these tours coming up? But that aside, we're left to just creating music. And when someone passes on a compliment, it's you right in the heart. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome, man. No, I definitely, Leaders and Liars. Everybody needs to, you're self-releasing it, or is it through?
It's on AFM, which is under this label called Believe. Okay.
Yeah. That's killer.
Yeah.
You got like vinyl variants and all that good stuff?
Yeah. I specifically
20,000 vinyl variants.
No, we only did, we didn't, there's no black vinyl. I did gold, red, and silver. That's it.
Yeah. That's killer.
A variation of the German flag. I just realized this morning, like somebody said it to me like, oh, you do that on purpose in an interview. And I'm like, I never thought of it. No,
just cool colors, bro.
Yeah, cool colors.
Yeah, but no, that's awesome. Yeah, it's funny too, because as you know, like the vinyl takes a fucking 9 months or 10 months or whatever to make now, right? Like what used to be, I remember like back when, I don't even know, did Urban Discipline even come out on vinyl? I know Burn My Eyes didn't come out on vinyl.
It didn't?
No, it only came out on CD and cassette. Like vinyl was so...
It was so old, yeah.
Yeah, it was just like nobody bought vinyl, so...
But they re-released it. You guys re-released
it. They re-released it recently, right before the pandemic. But that was the first official, the first official vinyl release didn't come till fucking, decades after that album.
It's better. It sounds better. And some of my best memories were there's two parts of vinyl. Listening to AC/DC. Oh yeah, I forgot. My buddy turned me on to AC/DC. So before I found punk rock, I was listening to Back in Black and Highway to Hell, but fucking huffing on glue in a brown paper bag, like, and then reading the liner notes and all this shit. And like a lot of the bands that we probably learned about and grew up loving, we found by reading who they were friends with, you know?
Right. Totally.
And you don't have it anymore. Like that's why like Jose is like the metal ambassador, has turned me on to so many fucking new bands because there's no, and when you listen to an MP3 or Spotify, you can't see who they thank. You can't see who they're friends with.
Right. But and it's better to hear it from somebody it's better to hear it from a Jose anyway, you know, like somebody like, okay, I'm hearing it from a friend and. Yeah. And it replaced that part. And the other thing is vinyl sounds better. The artwork's always better. It just, everything's so big and large, which is that's what music is, big and large. When you shrink it down, it kind of diminishes the power of it, I think. And MP3s, besides the quality shit, I mean, everything about it. We spent all this energy and time trying to make these massively sounding records, and then it gets squished down so somebody listens to it on a little, pair of headphones. And you kind of lose some of it, but you got to embrace change, I love that you talked about like what, the bands that get thanked or anything like that on a record. And that's how you discovered a bunch of bands, right? Like you'd read a hardcore band's thanks list, and then you'd be like, okay, they thanked this band. So now I got to listen to this band because I just saw them thanked on this guy's record. And same here. Like I did that. I can't even tell you how many times. Like I just see a band with a cool name on someone's record and be like, oh, okay. Like I'll go check that out.
Yeah.
Did you know that the very first time Machine Head was ever mentioned in print was on Urban Discipline when you guys thanked Machine Head? Yeah. You guys thanked Machine Head. One word, but you thanked Robin Adam and Machine Head. And I was like, I remember just being so fucking, we had just gotten started. We were just still, maybe had played a handful of shows or whatever.
No, I remember you guys came out to New York and we hung out. You guys came on tour with us for a bit and you guys were just putting the band together, right? And then you went back and made the record, right?
Well,
or was it after?
It was a little different than that. Yeah, it was a little different. I was still in Violence, and Violence was ending a tour in New York City.
Yeah.
And Dom DeLuca came out, and I want to say one of you guys came out to the show, and then we played, and then the plan was my girlfriend at the time was taking a train out with our roommate, Phil Rydell, and Adam. And they were all going, and who was friends with Phil. And they were all coming out, and they were fans of Violence. They were going to go see the show. I was going to hang out. And then we were staying at Metal Maria's. And while we were there at Metal Maria, which I always did, every time I was in New York, at any time in Violence, I was sleeping on fucking Metal Maria's floor because we never had money for hotels. So and she was like, yeah, you could stay. So we were like, okay. And it was fun. I was talking to my buddy Tom about this last night because he pulled up some site that it was a pretty rad site. I should send you the link, but it was like a fucking Biohazard. It was a shrine to Biohazard, basically. It had like every show you'd ever done. And I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. You guys did so many shows before your first record. It was crazy. Like hundreds of shows. I was fucking just blown away. Like there was a lot of shows before you guys were, on your way. And anyway, we saw, you guys were playing at the Sundance Theater in Long Island or whatever that place was called, Sundance. And you were with Token Entry. You were supporting them. And me, Phil, and Adam went to the show just because we heard you guys were killer. And
Phil Demo.
Phil Rydell, my roommate.
Okay, yeah.
And we went out to the show, and I think Dom told us to go there because Dom was just like, I was like, I'm going to be hanging in town. Like, do you guys, is there any cool shows going on? Yeah. And Dom DeLuca was like, yo, check out my boys Biohazard. So we went out and checked, and I just remember being fucking blown away. Like I just, Danny was in the band by then, and you guys had the first record out, and I'd never heard, I know I say this a lot about Danny, but I just really feel that Danny's like one of the most underrated drummers in the fucking history of music, metal and hardcore, because I just think those grooves that he brought to the scene and to just hardcore in general, like they changed the game. Like they changed the fucking game forever. Like you'd never heard that kind of funky swagger in a metal song, you know, but when I heard you guys do it, I was like, oh shit, you can do that. I was like, oh, like it was totally a light bulb in my brain. And I just remember being blown away. We hung out with you guys, and then you guys came through on the Exploited thing. Not soon after that.
Yep. Yeah. Where did we were at a hotel once, and we probably should go into it. It's a little crap.
So after Sundance is the hotel thing. Yeah, with Bobby. I couldn't remember if you were there. I don't know if you want to tell the story, but my fucking version, my memory of the story is fucking gold, dude. Like I was like, we're hanging out with you guys. We're like, yeah, let's go fucking party. Like we're gonna go back to you guys, grab a bunch of girls because Biohazard always had a fucking gaggle of girls around them perpetually. And Big Rich is there, Big Rich FLYNN, and shout out to Big Rich because he was a fucking maniac, and he really was like big, like he was a fucking big dude, man. Like
best manager to have because you don't forget him. Who's right? Oh, the band with the tall manager. He's like 7'4".
Yeah, he was fucking huge and super nice guys. Anyway, we're back and we're wasted already because we were at the show and you guys are just starting to party, and then like it's just like, hey, we're gonna go bang these chicks out in the fucking room over here. Let's open the curtains and you guys can watch. And we're like, what? Like this is nuts. So like we're hanging outside like on the patio of this like pretty ghetto hotel. And just like sipping beers and talking. And then every once in a while look inside the window and like, you know, there's Bobby banging some chick, or Rich. I remember Rich like going in for sloppy fifths or something and like starts eating her out and she's on her period and he comes up and he's just got blood all over his face. He's like, like looking out the window like, oh my God.
Was that Richie or Bobby? I always thought it was Bobby who like grabbed her. I know.
No, tell the story. I know what you're about to say.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Of course it's okay. It's called No Fucking Regrets.
Yeah. All right. So there you go. Perfect. So he grabs the girl's tampon with his teeth, pulls it out, and starts shaking like a dog. I thought it was Bobby. It was Rich or was Bobby?
It Bobby? I can't remember. Maybe it was Bobby.
I think it's Bobby because there's other stories that were similar. Okay. You know, and he was a maniac. And here's the thing.
Just to recap though, he goes down and starts eating her out. She has a tampon and he pulls the tampon out with his mouth and wipes the fucking bloody thing all over his face.
Holy fuck, dude. That's it.
He was a fucking maniac.
We can't be canceled for this because it happened.
No.
Right? We're godfathered in?
No. This is the shit right here.
That's rock and roll, bro. And that shit. Great fucking memories. Holy damn.
Yeah, I couldn't remember if you were there. And I was like, I don't think that Billy was in on that, but I know you were around hanging out.
I remember looking in the window and watching this whole thing happen. And both of us were like, holy fuck.
Yes. For
laughing.
Sure. It was Rich. I can't remember. I think Evan might have been involved in it too. I can't remember, but it was, it was all consensual. Like the girls were totally stoked. They were like, loved you guys. Like the fucking girl. Like I tell this story to so many people that I've never before or since ever been around any band that had as many girls as you guys did, and mainly it was Evan and Bobby, like you were always pretty level-headed. Danny was always pretty level-headed. I think you guys had girlfriends and it was always like chill, but like those two, like, I've heard, like you always hear something like Robert Plant could get any woman that he wanted, you always hear the road crew, like he could get any girl into bed and like, they couldn't say it. And I was like, fucking whatever. Like, no, like Evan and Bobby could have any girl they wanted. Like it was crazy. Like Bobby would have 4 girls in 4 different corners of the venue and he'd just be like making the rounds. I was like,
and never get busted.
Never.
Here's a funny story on that. I got a call once from the producers of Jerry Springer. And they said, hi, blah, blah, blah. We want to bring you on a show. It's a show about groupies. And I'm like, you got the wrong dude. And they're like, no, it's you, Billy, the blonde guy from Biohazard. I'm like, no, you probably mean, a lot of people confuse me with Bobby, the names, blah, blah, blah. Right. Or maybe Evan. And they're like, no. We spoke to a lot of interviewed a lot of women, and your name keeps coming up from Biohazard. I'm like,
you were probably you were the hottest guy in Biohazard. You had the abs. You're all shirtless.
So I ended up. I was like, no, man, this ain't right. I'm gonna bring out somebody, and it's gonna be a paternity test, all this crazy shit. But it was with Pete, and Pete Steele did it. And you can find it on the internet. Yeah, he did it, and it's the funniest thing. The way he handled it is awesome. My wife just walked in, so
you want to go say hi? Go say hi to her.
No, it's okay.
Okay, good.
Right. I'm dying to, but so Pete is, my wife, she still has that effect on me. She flushed me, knocked me off my game, dude. I'm no longer the cool dude from Biohazard. I'm just like this in love guy who's just like, so Pete did the interview, and the way he handled it, it's awesome. You can search it. I'm sure it's on YouTube somewhere, but I never did it because I was, looking back now, I always say there's no regrets, and we are who we are because of the experiences that we've had. And so I wouldn't change anything, but it would have been a cool story to have, like to see what would have happened. I'd rather regret things that I did than things that I didn't do. And that is one thing would have been cool to hang out with Pete Steele and on a TV show with Jerry Springer with a bunch of women that you've met on tour,
Right. Yeah. I'd tell you what, the next thing that I remember about Biohazard is you guys come to, I think that I want to say that we knew these Belgian dudes. We had these Belgian dudes come and stay with us, and I can't remember their real names, but we called them David the Cat.
Yeah.
David and I can't remember the other guy. I'm trying to forget. Yeah, you know who I'm talking about. BXL Posse.
Christian.
Yeah, BXL. Yes, Christian. Yes, BXL Posse.
Yep. Yeah, those guys, they still pop up. But anyways, I remember that when they went up, you guys hooked them up. They stayed with us.
I think you guys said, "Hey, these guys are friends of ours. Just like put them up," and we put them up, and they ended up being super cool. And they kind of helped spread the word about Machine Head when they went back home, and then you guys came out, and it was the Exploited tour, and Waddy, the singer for Exploited, had just OD'd somewhere in the Midwest or something, and so I guess a week of dates got canceled.
Yep.
And I guess the first show was supposed to resume in San Francisco, and so you guys called somebody, probably Evan, called me up and was like, "Hey, like we all need to stay at people's house. Can you put it like all up?" And I can't remember remember where you went, but I know Evan came out and stayed with me.
Yeah, and I remember you guys introduced me to Marcus Pacheco and Aaron Kane. They were tattoo artists, and they did my backup. And I spent like 4 or 5 days getting tattooed, but that was a crazy time. I forgot that Waddy OD'd because he had blood poisoning. We had a kick. That tour was fucking wild, crazy.
Talk about that. Tell me, you got to have so many fucking stories about this.
Yeah, dude. I remember we were doing the whole tour was in 2 vans. Waddy, who's still to this day a great friend, and I see him often, who's gone through fucking hell and back, and he's still surviving, like heart attacks, quadruple bypass, and he's still the same fucking dude.
Wow.
But on that tour, Rob, as a punk rock kid too, I'm not with one of the top dogs in the punk rock world.
Yeah, I mean,
he's like, fuck the USA, everything. We just like, this guy he doesn't give a fuck. All he did was fucking crank the whole tour and listen to Too Legit to Quit by fucking
by MC Hammer.
MC Hammer. Over and over again, bro.
Too Legit to Quit.
Yeah.
That is the most random thing to hear, that fucking Waddy, the singer for The Exploited, is listening to MC Hammer's second record or whatever.
Little Fingers or UK Subs. He was listening to Too Legit to Quit, and he kept doing the thing. Whatever it was.
Too legit to quit.
So and I remember, so our van broke down in the middle of the tour. That tour is filled with so many hilarious rock and roll moments. We were on our way to Canada. Our van broke down. We jump into their van. So we posse up. We're going across the border, and suddenly their fucking tour manager who's driving starts screaming. And Waddy had this cattle prod, and he would, every time he dropped below 55, he'd electrocute him.
Oh my God.
Hit him in the ribs or the side of the neck.
Wow.
bro, this kid, by the end of the tour, he developed this fucking twitch like this. And one day, we must have driven with them for maybe a week or 2 weeks on tour until we sorted out our transportation.
So you're all in the van. You
all
and
in
the
the van.
Exploited. Wow.
Yeah. So
that's pretty
we're coming
tight
across the
quarters,
border.
man.
Yeah, we come across the border, and this abused tour manager driver turns around and says, "Get rid of all your drugs across the border." So Waddy pulls out a bag of fucking crank, and we're like, "Bro, throw that shit out. Throw it out. Paid a lot of good money for it." In a Scottish accent, it's like New Yorkers and Scotch are so. We speak fast, but that was motherfuckers speak faster and with marbles in their mouth. You're like, what?
Right.
So he was basically saying he spent a lot of money on it. There's no way hell he's fucking. He goes, "You got to do it with me." And so he literally pretty much by himself started the whole fucking bag of crank.
Wow.
And it set it off. It was like straight through from that and the rest of the tour. One time he opens the door of the van, maces everybody in the fucking van, and then closes it, locks it. We couldn't get out. It was hotels, trash. We threw a TV out the fucking window in a mattress, and then split town because that's going to cost you money. So we had to leave. That was when hotels, they didn't require you to put a credit card.
Right.
And I think because of what we all did coming up, both of our bands, made it so new bands have to use a credit card before you can get a hotel room. But we got stuck in San Francisco and hung with you guys. And it was after.
Where did you stay in San Francisco?
I don't remember. I want to
say I put you up with. I think I put you up with a friend of mine, but I can't remember who.
I don't remember who, but all I remember was I think we saw Nirvana.
Yep. Yeah, I got us all into the Nirvana show for Nevermind at the Warfield. Yeah, the Warfield. Yeah. I snuck us all in, like 10 dudes. It was pretty wild. I just threw some game at the security guard.
Thank you for clarifying that, because I think at that time, I think I was I think I was doing acid or something. I remember tripping from that show we played in San Francisco. Evan got pierced and he almost bled. It wouldn't stop bleeding.
Right.
We tripped driving from San Francisco to LA to continue on. And I tripped my mind, I was out of my mind. So I only remember vaguely going to see Nirvana. I don't remember anything about the show, but I'm like, is that my memory? Or did I ever really see Nirvana?
No, we all went to see. Yeah, I got us all into Nirvana on the Nevermind tour at the Warfield.
I knew it, man. My memory's so fucking foggy, but I remember outside the theater, and it was like we were such a small band. It was like a big place. I was like, "Whoa, this is pretty cool!" And it was sold out. Tons of people there.
Yes,
that was before the big record, right?
That was that was like a month or two after the record dropped. It was just starting to take off, and they're playing the Warfield. Yeah, they had nothing. They just had half stacks on stage. Didn't even have a fucking backdrop. Like just super basic setup, and people were fucking like, "Holy shit, this band's sick."
Yeah,
it was pretty wild.
Another band that changed the world. So we jumped in the van, and I remember taking acid, driving, and I was up the whole way to fucking LA. We get to LA.
You're driving to LA on acid.
Yeah, I wasn't driving. I was just riding the back of the van. We had like.
You're now back in your separate vans. Exploited and
yeah. Sorry. So during the San Francisco stint, when we were there with you guys, we missed. They had to cancel a bunch of shows, and we just
didn't a bunch of shows get canceled. Like shows were getting canceled all the time because of something. Yeah. Like something happened or something, right?
He OD'd one part, and that might have been the time he OD'd. He also got blood poisoning at another part of the tour, and then a bunch of riots, crazy.
Yeah, but didn't your van got attacked, or their van got attacked, right, by a bunch of skinheads or something?
Yeah, we were. This is crazy. We were in Minneapolis, and Evan and I, we just got off stage, and we're hanging out at First Avenue. And for those who don't know, First Avenue was where Purple Rain was filmed for Prince. So we're upstairs in this balcony, and it was super fucking hot and like more like humid inside the club. So all the wind, I'll never forget this. All the windows had all this moisture on it, right? So Evan and I are talking literally like this, and some skinhead comes between us, and he sticks his hand between our faces, and he draws a swastika on the fucking mildew, on the moisture on the window. I look at him like, I look at Evan, and I look at the kid, and I'm like, motherfucker. And I went to swing at him, hit him, and the guy runs away. Evan and I chase this dude. We chase him down. He's got like 6 guys outside. We're trying to fight these dudes, and they were running from us. And we're like, there's 2 of us. These are fucking white power skinheads. Why are they running? What? So we just kept chasing them. They outrun us. We turn around. We're like, wow, look at this. This is a great story. We get back to the club. As soon as we get in the club, it's chaos. Security and all the Biohazard, all exploited. And like the few hardcore fans that we all had were all fighting these security guys. And then it turns out they all surround the vans. We end up hightailing out of there. And then we get to the hotel, and then we get all these calls that they were coming to get us. And so we had to leave the city, and, we all got a dime a dozen of those stories.
The Evan stays with me. He spends the night, and this is, I don't really know Evan that well, but I was like, fuck it. Like, crazy times, like, sure, we'll post everybody up. And Evan's, just the coolest, fucking, he's from Brooklyn, and he's just like, he can talk to anybody, and like, we're hanging out, and we're out of our minds, like, I'm dealing speed, and I'm hanging out with my crazy friend Mark G, who's a freaking maniac, and we're just getting in fights, and and but he'll hang with us, like he was hanging with, like he was going to every show. We've lived in this apartment complex now for like a year, and we've never had sex with any of the hot girls that live there. Dude, within like 24 hours, Evan's having sex with every girl in the fucking, we're just like, who is this dude? Like, what the fuck is going on? This is crazy. Like, I'm coming back into my room, and Evan's in my room with some girl. I can't get into my, I'm sharing an apartment with 3 dudes. Like, I've got my own bedroom, my roommate, and then my other roommate's in the living room. I can't get into my room because he's banging some chick in my bedroom on my weight bench. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like, these dudes are insane. What's that? On my weight bench in my bedroom, in my apartment.
There's this video. Somebody once said to me, "Oh, I saw a video of you. It's porn." I'm like, "I never made a porn video. That was Evan." No, you're in this video. I'm like, "What? No fucking way. I never did this. It must have been some like hidden camera or something." And there's a couple of blackout nights that I vaguely remember, but there's this one video. I think it was made by our buddy Drew Stone, and Drew is filming me talking about the tour. So I was always the guy, they called me the Sarge. I was the guy who hustled, organized everything, fucking ran the merch, ran the business. And another reason why I probably was smart to be sober, most of my career. But so in the video, I'm in front of the camera, I'm sitting there, I got this cool anvil case, which I thought was the fucking shit. It has all the business stuff. Everything's organized, and I'm counting, like settling merch. And he's interviewing me about the tour. And I don't remember who we were with, but the camera is like, it's on me. And then it slowly pans over my shoulder. In the dressing room, there's another dressing room behind us.
Okay.
And over my shoulder, he zooms in, and Evan's having sex with this girl on the couch, door wide open, right. And I'm oblivious, talking about the tour. Yeah, last time we played here was fucking awesome. Blah, 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 blah. And then the camera quietly just zooms back out, and I'm continuing with my story, oblivious to what's going on behind me. But I'm in a porn.
Yeah. Yeah, Evan was definitely he had no problem letting it all hang out. Like Bobby Literally. Would be more discreet for sure.
Yeah.
And
Bobby would,
yeah.
I think every woman he married, it's like he proposed to every woman he was with, and from his heart, and He was mad cool with everyone. And women still, he looked at him as like a dirty dog. Like it wasn't like he was a cheating rock and roll dude. Evan had the reputation. Bobby was just the mayor. So like I said,
I love that you brought that up. I think that's super funny. And maybe we even talked about that, and maybe this is where I got it from. But I remember thinking, like, we were hanging out with Bobby, and I remember we were in Atlanta. It was when we were on the Slayer tour, and we were in Atlanta. And he had a different girl every night on this tour. This is near the end of the tour. Like, he had multiple girls every single night. Every single fucking night. He had some smoking hot chick. or more hanging out waiting for him. Anyway, he came back and we were always busting his balls about it. We started like messing around with him. Like we'd go up like always talking to Chick and just like stick our arm between him and be like, hey, what's going on? But yo, what the fuck? What's going on?
My girl.
It's my girl. Like, right. And he comes up and he's like, yo, man, I'm so bummed. I'm like, what's the matter? And he's just like, my girl, bro. I'm like, what's up? And he's just like, my girl's grandfather died, bro. And I'm like, that girl that you're hanging out with right now, didn't you just meet her at the laundromat like an hour ago? And he was like, yeah, bro. But like, I was like, but that was it. Like he had this ability to like empathize. I'm like, where he was genuinely fucking bummed that this girl that he had met an hour ago, this grandma. And so like, and then pretty soon she was like, like, I was like, what the fuck? It's crazy. But it was like, that was how good he was. And it wasn't like and I say that not like how good he was, but like he genuinely felt that. Like I could see it in his eyes that he genuinely felt that. And that is what made that girl like so crazy about him. I was just like, this is fucking the craziest thing ever.
I still get messages, bro, on Instagram, people all the time, because Bobby's like under the radar, not on social media at all.
Right.
And he
Good for him.
always sending me, please tell Bobby, I tell him Susan says hi. He'll remember me. I'm like, okay, no problem.
Right.
But it's like, but the funny thing is that he probably will. He probably would remember each person,
Yeah.
I was always good like that. I wish I had $1 for every time I would walk up to the van and he'd be like, I'd open the door and be like, yo, what are you doing? I'm in here. And I'm like, what's going on? I got to change or something. And he's sitting there with his feet up on the dash. He's got a pad of paper because he's an artist. He drew. And there was a woman, like somebody sitting next to him and he's sketching them.
Okay.
He was this thing. You're beautiful. Can I draw you? But it was honest. It wasn't a line. It wasn't. It wasn't a line. It was incredible. He was so like, we could probably tell Bobby stories for the rest of the podcast. And it's great.
I can't even imagine how many stories I was only around him for like 4 months of my life. And I've got like 30 stories that I could tell right now.
I remember coming to see you guys at Roseland. And it was the first time Bobby and I bumped into each other. We already split up with Bobby. And we, as big fans of you and Machine Head, we came to see you guys. You guys fucking killed it. Sold out crowd. And Bobby, you and I are talking, Bobby walks up or vice versa. I don't remember. And we start going at it and it's like starting to heat up. And you were like, guys, just fucking stop, please. Don't do this. Because it was the first time we saw each other and we started having words, but you squashed it. And I was like, and we walked away. We hung out, but Bobby and I didn't have beef, And do you remember that? I don't know if you.
I remembered it as you told it. I didn't remember it up until now, but yes, yeah. I do. That's crazy. Yeah, I didn't realize that was the first time you guys had seen each other.
Yeah, nobody knows this, and people always kind of look at it like, oh, they kicked him out or whatever. But I quit the band. I was done with it, Bobby. I got my shit together. I was sober, and we were working on a new record. And I was like, we had some blow up. Bobby woke up, hungover, and it was like, I don't like any of the shit you're writing. I'm like, okay, cool. What do you got? I don't know. I don't got nothing yet. And that was it. I was like, well, and fuck you then. I packed up my shit. Guys, I'm done. I'm out of here. Fuck this band. I'm not going to carry this band on my fucking coattails. Packed up my shit and quit. Left Biohazard. Evan shows up at my stoop the next night. We're sitting outside on 58th Street and he's like, yo, let's do something. If you're going to continue, I'm with you. I said, all right. About a week later, Danny calls me. It's like, yo, I hear you're doing something with Evan. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to start something new. And he's like, all right, I'm in. And so that was the plan. And then management and everybody that was making money off of us just got in our ears. And looking back, no regrets, but looking back, I think that it would have been a wiser move if we would have just stopped and changed and come up with a new name and been, Billy, Danny, and Bobby, or Billy, Danny, and Evan from Biohazard, and started something different and left that what we created together, let that just be. But we didn't. We let them, we got everybody, filling shit in our ear. And the whole concept, they were like,
this is right after State of the World address, right?
right after State of the World Address. We had just finished touring. We were working on what became Mott the Layout.
Right.
And then they were like, you guys worked so hard to get this. Bobby's got his shit going on. That's his issue. You guys don't all these fucking millions of kids who like you guys. You have so many fans that you touched with Bobby. And, you know, you don't have to diss him, but continue with the band. And we did. But I and Danny and I always said, yo, if Bobby ever gets his shit, when he gets his shit together, because we were optimistic, in a heartbeat, we'll be back together with him. It just took forever. You know, eventually he got it together and you know, now we speak every week.
I mean, I get it too. I mean, like, as many like great Bobby stories as I have, and I do have a lot of them, like, he was really out of hand. I mean, on that Slayer tour, more so than, I mean, he was blacked out a lot of the time. And it was fucking hard for everybody to deal with, you know, like it was hard. It was hard for me to deal with. I could tell it was hard for you guys to deal with, though.
Yeah, dude. One time we were we were in Europe with playing 2 festivals in one day. So we had to charter a private plane. I hate fucking saying the story. Chart a private plane, but
I love it
for business. Like,
great.
Promoter was like,
you guys were huge. Like, it would not surprise me that you guys chartered a fucking private plane. You were fucking massive at one point.
It's the hardcore side of me. It's like, it's not cool, whatever. But, you know, so we had to get this plane. We got off stage in Donington and had to fly to fucking Germany to play at night. And on the plane, Bobby I remember they turned the power off at Donington. There was this big riot. And I was just like, holy fuck, this is amazing. We could never get our legs under us in England. But we started fighting the securities who were beating up the kid. You know, the kids are coming over the barricade. And I'm like, this is awesome. We fucking stood up for the kids. And there are people. This is going to turn out to be great. Bobby's flipping out, trashing everything. He gets wasted. We're on this fucking plane flying to Germany. And he goes after the fucking exit. And he's trying to open the door and he's screaming, I'm on a one-way mission to hell and I'm taking you motherfuckers with me.
Shit.
Tiny tackles him. We're holding him down, pinning him down in the chair.
Tiny security guard.
Yeah.
Rest in peace, Tiny.
But Bobby, even with all that crazy shit, it was just a time, you know, it was crazy. It was drugging, drinking and partying. It was just a wild time. But he's still a great dude.
I could see, you know, there was a couple times though when I could see like it was wearing on everybody. Like I remember on that, you know, so we do the Slayer tour in Europe and it's the Slayer Machine Head. Then we come to America and it's Machine Head opening Biohazard supporting Slayer. And,
you guys toured with them first?
Yeah, we did a tour overseas with them first and then came over and did that tour with you guys. And so, and you know, like there was some nights when you guys absolutely fucking killed it. And there was other nights where like, you know, the crowd was just kind of like, what's this new style? Like, I don't know about this. And you know, like, and some nights like Bobby would be so fucked. Like I remember clearly one night, and it's the fucking funniest goddamn story, but you guys were so pissed, but he was up there. We're in Minneapolis and like the show is not going well. Like the crowd's not on your side and fucking, you know, like Bobby gets up on the mic and like Evan goes to say something. Bobby's like, yo, I got to say something, like, hold up. And like fucking starts going up. We got to save the white tigers, yo. Like we got to save the white. Listen, all over the fucking world, there's fucking white tigers getting killed, and everybody's just like looking around in the audience, like, what the fuck? White tigers? Like, what are you talking about? And they're like, boo, you know. They say, boo. How can you fucking, you motherfucker? You don't give a fuck about the fuck you then, man. And everybody's just like, white tiger? What? Like, and this goes on for 10. This goes on for 10 minutes, and you're literally just glaring. I'm in the crowd watching this, and you're just glaring at him, just like fucking, you know, Evan, like everybody's just like,
I remember, I totally forgot about that, dude. There was one crazy story, but so here was the thing. Once we were like, okay, Bobby's got a drinking problem and he's not going to stop. It was like, okay, we draw a line, no drinking before stage, or no drinking on stage, no drinking before we go on stage, you know, on stage, after whatever. And then there's like, then towards the end of the set, you see a beer on his side of the stage, and then a couple beers, and then they get earlier into the set, and then finally there's a beer when you walk on stage during the intro, sitting on his amp that his tech put there. So he battled, and that dude single-handedly without AA found his way and fucking survived it.
That's
you got to give it up for him. But I don't. That's
what's going through your head though, as like he's going off on a 10-minute fucking tangent about white tigers. Like, what are you thinking,
bro? Gene Simmons. We met Gene Simmons at Headbangers Ball, and it was the first time meeting him. We walk into the green room. He's sitting there on the phone like this, larger than life, and I'm like, wow, we're waiting for him to get off the phone so we could talk to him. And I'm like, holy shit, that was the first band I fell in love with as a little kid, like 8 years old. My grandmother bought the first Alive 2 record for Christmas. That was it. So we're waiting to get for him to get off the phone. He takes me aside and he's like, hey man, you know my history. That dude, and he points at Bobby, kick him out of your band before he destroys you guys. I'm like, what? That's our boy. What are you talking about? And I'm meeting one of my idols, rock and roll idols as a little kid. I felt like I was 12 years old, and he's telling me this. I'm like, what? And I never told Bobby this story, and I probably shouldn't even share it here. But he said, you know my story with Kiss. You know my history. He was talking about Ace. And he goes, I see it. I know it. And this was maybe 4 years before we split with Bobby. But
wow,
it always stuck in the back of my head. And so you asked me what was going through my head. That was going through my head. Not Gene Simmons, but I was like, all our hard work. And Bobby, I'm up for fucking Animal Sanctuary. And I know Bobby so well. I know where his heart's at.
Right.
But it was more important to him to talk about what he felt. And the crowd just they were there for fucking Slayer. Right. We just had to bring it, and we were having a tough time. And I forgot about that. But so it was more so like what's going through my head. It was like, what all these hard work, and this motherfucker. In a looking back now, he meant well. He was trying to do right, but he lost sight of what we were there for. What we were there for was not to save the animals. Let's reach maybe 1,000 of these, 15,000 kids. Hopefully they'll like us, and then maybe we can talk about that in a song.
Right.
That's the right way to do it. But he was all passion, and and that's how he reacted. One time we played at a place in Vegas. And the guys in Chili Peppers reach out, and they're coming down to see us. We were all psyched, but Danny's super psyched. Bobby he comes back from the bar before sound check, and Evan, who was straight and sober, couldn't be near alcohol. If he kissed a girl that was like that did blow, and he would get a freeze, he'd freak the fuck out, would send him off into these panic attacks. So Bobby came and sang in his mic, sings into Evan's mic, because we would switch mics a lot.
Right.
Evan goes back in the mic, sings, and then breathes in. And I think it was at an era where, because of like grounding issues, we had those foam things on the mics.
Yeah.
And he sucked in like Bobby's spit with alcohol. Evan freaked the fuck out, called Bobby out. Don't fucking sing on my microphone, motherfucker. I just sucked in alcohol. And to Evan, it was a trigger. But to Bobby, to have him be, Evan dissed him in front of, it was a sound check.
Right.
So that set it off. They get big fight backstage. That whole energy carries on stage. Sold out crowd at the Hundreds. It was like this theater
the Hundreds. Yeah.
Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
The ceiling collapsed like soon after that. But Chili Peppers are on stage, on the side of the stage watching us, and we're all like, we're in band crisis mode. Like we're just trying to get through a show.
What era is this? Like, what album are you touring on?
It was probably after the Slayer tour. So it was still Bobby, because that was the last, State of the World address. So Bobby, so he has him freak out on stage. He's still pissed off because of the beef with him and Evan. We're just trying to get through the show. And it was awesome show, but Bobby starts fucking freaking out about his sound. He starts fighting with his tech. And when you're inebriated, your high end starts to go. It goes anyways during the show, especially if you're not wearing earplugs. But he's drunk. And he starts fucking yelling at his tech. He starts kicking his amps over, and he trashes everything, and then smashes guitar and walks off stage. And we're like, what the fuck? Because the rants that you saw, those things, it was occasional. We would squash it backstage. We would all repair what kind of damage it was internally and move forward, look past it.
Right.
But it took its toll. And I think when I quit, it was all the culmination of all that bullshit. Because I'm like, to me, I'll never forget this. The first punk rock band I ever played with, I told the guys, listen, They wanted to break the band up. And I was like, are you kidding me? We're going to play CBGBs. They're like, no way. I'm like, watch me, motherfuckers. Stick with me. We'll play. And that was my goal. We'll play CBGBs.
Yeah.
And we did. I did with Biohazard. And so I was always the driving force. I would, no matter ups or downs, I was the guy who kind of just riled the troops and like, yo, let's stick it together, solve it out. Danny was a dude who would solve it. He was like the middle guy that would be like, listen, Billy, you're fucking super extreme and short fuse. Bobby, you're super passionate. Evan, you're doing your thing. Let's meet here in the middle. Compromise sucks at art. I don't like that, but Danny kept it together. I've always given him that credit. Yeah. But when I split and quit from Biohazard, it was a culmination of all that bullshit. And Bobby said to me, he said, we saw him ironically went to see Kiss, and we had this kid Das play guitar for us. He's from Helmet. So we're walking up to Kiss. We're on 42nd Street by the Garden, and we bump into Bobby. And Evan freaked, everyone just didn't want to deal with it. It's like pretty much kind of just walked away or ran away. But Danny and I stay there, and this kid, Rob, who was playing guitar for us, Das, his nickname was, kind of stood behind, and Bobby's like, fuck you think you could play my leads? It was pretty heated. But he's like, Billy, you guys fucking threw the wrong guy out. And I'm like, we didn't throw you out. It wasn't the time for him to hear this, but he said to me, Evan is the dude. He will destroy fucking Biohazard. It wasn't me. I got a drinking problem. He was partly right, but Evan went on, and when Evan got big in porn, it was like, I love porn. Everybody, I'm not a prude.
We all watch porn.
Right? But it was like everyone I knew, I'd say 99% of the people that I ever met in porn had fucked up childhood, shit that had traumatic experiences that they couldn't get over. We all had crazy times in our life, but we found a way to deal with them and turn those wounds into wisdom and rise above it. Evan, to me, porn, for me personally, it stood against that survival, that overcoming, that rise above vibe, survival of the fittest that Biohazard stood for. And slowly, Evan's passion for Biohazard diminished over the years, and he slowly chipped away at it. Like a lot of people that kind of liked us and respected us lost some respect, I think. And for me, and this is just my opinion, I think a lot had to do with because it was a pantomime for me. He did it for a different reason. He liked the attention, and he'll be the first one to admit it. He got more interested in the things that Biohazard brought into his life than Biohazard. And you kept it real all this time. You still do it. And that's why you're still successful. Evan, it chipped away. And I'll never forgot what Bobby said to me. And he was right. In looking back now, and the show is no regrets, if we would had to kind of come back to full circle when we split with Bobby, when I quit, if we would have continued as a new band, we would have had momentum as Biohazard. We would have started something different. And the reputation and the legacy that we built up to that point never would have faltered. It would have just stayed. Yeah, they blew up. That's rock and roll. That shit happens. And we would have maybe had a successful career or an equal career with Biohazard. Who knows? But it would have been a different thing. And I always wondered what would have happened. But shoulda, coulda, woulda. It is what it is. We're here today talking about my solo records.
Yeah. I mean, it's wild to think how you guys were huge, man. Like you guys were fucking huge.
I think
it was it was fucking crazy how big you guys got.
Here's the thing, bro. I have a big ego. We all do. The first thing we do is piss in the morning. We all get egos. But I'm probably next to Danny, I'm the humblest dude in the band. Danny's a very humble guy.
Yep.
But I think what happened with us, we hit it with something different, and the media, especially MTV, grabbed onto us. And I think the hardcore followers and the fans that we made and the friends that we made with Biohazard suddenly were rubbing elbows with people who didn't understand Biohazard. They liked us because MTV said we were the cool band.
Right.
That made us huge on the covers and kind of like in the scheme of things. But the devoted, loyal fans that you have, that Slayer has, that Pantera had. We suddenly lost a lot of that core. So when we were no longer the cool band anymore, we didn't have a strong foundation to fall back on. Right. So the bottom fell out real quick, which is probably why Evan started to move on to different things. So I don't fault him for that.
Yeah.
And I only wish him well. And same thing with Bobby. But I held on to Biohazard for so long, bro. And it was like, I thought we would be around forever. And it didn't matter to me that we weren't playing in front of 5,000 people, that we were only playing 500 people. And then there were shows when there was 50 people, it didn't matter. I still played in front of them like they were 50,000. Right. It was the same. It never changed. So people like, when they say, what's it like to start a new band? It's the same as when I started, when I was fucking 19. I have the same passion. I didn't start to make money. I didn't start to be popular. I just have this burning fire inside to express myself how I want to express myself. So I'm going to do it with Biohazard, with Billy Bio or Powerflo or whatever else I got going on. It's just music. That's all that we create, you know?
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome, man. Yeah. I mean, I sit there and, you know, I'm super happy that you're still making music. I'm really happy for you. And, you know, it sounds like, you know, shit's going great in your life. And I'm just happy that you're still out there doing it because you're one of the best to ever do it. You know, like I still, you know, you know how much Biohazard means to me. You know, like I always said, you know, back in the day, we were the West Coast Biohazard. You know, like that's what we wanted. We wanted to be you guys so bad. Like we thought you guys were fucking like hardcore rock stars. You know, like that's what you were to us. And,
you guys had,
you know, to me, Bobby was always like the Slash of hardcore. You know what I mean? Like he was just the coolest I was like, this is the coolest motherfucker I've ever seen on stage. Like, fucking, that's it. Like. You know, but all of you guys, you know, like it was such a fucking crazy intense show, and like your stage presence was such a huge influence on, you know, how we presented ourselves like during a show, and like we've got to fucking bring it and go fucking crazy, and you know, like I think in so many ways too, like I just feel like, you know, Biohazard doesn't get the respect that it deserves for the influence that you guys have had. I mean, you know, it sounds very cliche to say, oh, they're one of the first to put rap and hardcore or rap and metal together. But like nobody was fucking doing this. You know, the style that you guys brought in that influenced so many fucking bands. I don't even know if bands realize that they're stealing from Biohazard when they're stealing from Biohazard. You know, it's like I hear it and I'm like, yeah, maybe you think it's so-and-so, but it's actually Biohazard that you're stealing that from. You know, they just stole it from Biohazard, and
that's cool. You know, I still got to, you know.
Yeah, I mean, that, like,
still pay my bills.
Let me just blow you up. You know, like
you're like go, and I'm like, no, I'm cool. I never talk myself down. I'm never. Yeah. I feel good about myself. I'm in a good place, but it's nice to hear these compliments.
I mean, it really was, and you know, undeniable influence on us without. You know, I can easily say without Biohazard, there would be, you know, Machine Head would have sounded a lot different. You know, it was just such a, you know, you came along at a time in our lives, and just meeting you guys and like being around your energy and being around like, you know, like it really like, it had a huge effect on us, man. Like it really did have a huge effect on us, like in this very positive way. You know, I even think about, you know, I was talking with my buddy Tom last night. You know, I was just telling him stories. I never got around to how you used to shit into a solo cup and then stick it on the table in catering during the Slayer tour, which was still one of my favorite fucking Billy memories in the history of the fucking world. But
not about that.
I was telling him how you you gave me the first vocal lessons I ever had in my life. Like you gave me a cassette of you going to Don Lawrence.
Lawrence.
I started losing I was having trouble with my throat and I was losing my heavy voice. And, you know, we'd sit in the back of the fucking lounge and you'd like, you know, with the guitar and you'd like do the warm up with me. And I was just like, it was so foreign to me to be doing a vocal warm up with another band member. I was like, this is weird. But, you know, looking back, I'm so grateful that you did that. You know, like it really, dude, like it fucking changed my fucking, like, you know, it allowed me to sing for the rest of my fucking life. Like those little things along the way. So like when I say the impact that you had on our life, it really was like a genuinely, you know, massive impact. And
so let me ask you a question. And now that we're on camera, so if we ever get Biohazard together, is there a possibility that we can play together?
I think if we're not doing evening with, I would say fuck yes.
It's all good. It's all good.
You know, so I mean, I love touring with you when we did the Australia stuff, when you had the other guys singing, and you know, Bobby was sober, and like that was fucking amazing, dude. Like that was
a good run. They don't do that anymore. That's canceled. That
yeah. I gotta say the one last thing though, like just back to that, how you in another way that you inspired me. So let me go back to the pooping into a solo cup thing, because I gotta say, I remember watching you do that. We're on the Slayer tour. Let me set this up. We're on the Slayer tour, and Bobby's like, or Billy, you were like, let me show you something. I'm going to do something. You like grab a solo cup, pull down your pants, standing straight up, poop into a solo cup, like just stick it behind your butt. And I was just like, holy shit, how the fuck? I was so like, this dude's the best dude. This is my spirit animal right here. Like, I need to figure out how to do this. I'd never been able to. You went and take a couple of carrots and you stick it right in there and you stick a napkin on top of it again. Then like we just sat there in catering, just waiting for people like you and me, just watching people kind of like peruse the catering table, like lift like, oh, what the fuck is this? And like,
I've done that so many times. I forgot about that dark, dirty fucking Gigi Allen part of my person. That's the punk rock side. That 100% punk rock. But because I used to do the same thing. I would put tortilla chips. And people would think I was in Japan once, and I was sick, so I took a bunch of antibiotics to turn my shit green. And I remember it looked like guacamole, so I put chips in there. People, nobody ate. I would never let anybody eat it, but I was like, no, don't, whatever. Right. But I forgot about that dirty. Wow.
So then you dare me to do it, and I go and try to do it. Like I'm like, okay, I'll fucking just shit right into a solo cup. Like the next time I have to take a shit, and I couldn't. At some point I became so like determined. Like Billy did it, I can fucking do it. Like I'm gonna do, and I couldn't ever fucking do it. I tried so finally I like just okay. I'm gonna get a plate and I'm gonna squat on it and take a poop onto the plate, and then go and put some carrots in it and cover it with a napkin. So that became our entertainment for the entire Slayer tour, like that we were doing. We would just sit in catering and wait for people to just get completely disgusted by the poop we left on the catering table. Good times.
Crazy memories, dude. So are you interested in where that ended up going with Slayer?
Yes. No, please do tell.
We were on tour, that whole tour. You guys bonded with Slayer well, but Carrie, we always would invite them out to parties, right? And they were just more interested in going to TGIF.
Right.
And we did a couple of tours with them, and they had not at the time. I was like, "You're fucking Slayer. Where's the Ragers?" But they did it already. They had already been there. They were over it. Yeah. And we were in that phase of our career. So we were just raging wherever we went. So we kept trying to break the ice, trying to get them. And Carrie and I always seemed to just never hit it off. Just, Jeff and I got along. Tom and I were great. Paul was great. Dave was great when he was around. But I remember one night we were in Australia. We walk on the tour on the plane, because you fly, for those who don't know, you stay in Sydney and you satellite out and you fly to every city because you're so far away. So we get on the plane, and Bobby and I, we walk past Kerry King, and Kerry said to me, "You guys are in the back." He makes us look. "You're in the back with the cattle." And I'm like, "Oh yeah?" And I'm like, I look at Bobby like, "Yo." And we sit down right next to him. And I'm like, "How much you pay for your seat?" And he's like, "What are you doing? Your seats are back there." I'm like, "No, they're not. They're right here, motherfucker." And we stayed there. I fall asleep, because you don't sleep on tour, right? Especially in Australia.
Right.
I fall asleep. I wake up and somebody's hitting the back of my head, and it's Bobby. We had sky bunks, first class. It wasn't really, it was business class, so they weren't cool chairs.
I know. Yeah.
But it was still, we had our own row. Bobby wakes me up, and he's arguing with the stewardess. And I'm like, "Yo, what's the problem?" And he's like, she won't let me eat. She goes, "Sir, this is not your seat. Let me see your ticket." And so she hands him a ticket, and she's like, 45. This is row 4. He's like, oh, this is not 45? Bullshit. So we got busted. We walked by Carrie, and Carrie makes this fucking face like he ratted us out. So I'm like, motherfucker, he fucking ratted us out. Not a big deal. It's stupid shit. So I go back, I sit down, I take the throw-up bag, right? I go in the toilet, I shit in the bag, I roll it up, I wait for the flight to almost land. I go up, and Carrie's sitting next to Paul Bostaff. I put the bag, they're both asleep. Paul tells me the story later. I put the bag between them. Paul said, we woke up and I see this bag, and Carrie's like, what, is that yours? What the fuck is that? And Paul's like, it's not mine. So Carrie grabs it, opens it up, almost throws up. He knew it was me, right? This whole thing goes back, and I'm trying to wind this guy up the whole fucking tour. The last night of the tour, and I'm sure the time is coming short. Just tell me when we got to leave.
Yeah.
Carrie's, we invite this kid on stage in Willagong. The kid comes up naked, covers himself in shit.
Oh my God.
It was horrible. But Tiny was like, I'm like,
while you're playing? This is while you're playing?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
So he knocks on Slayer's door. This kid who's a guest of ours, covered in shit, naked, drunk out of his mind. They freak out. They try to kick us off tour. And we're like, how are you going to kick us off tour? Though? Here's some of the things you guys sing about. Come on, this kid's drunk. It's not us. And it was pretty ill. It took us a long time to kind of rebuild our friendship with them. But eventually we were on tour in Europe with them. It was supposed to be Tattoo the Planet with Pantera, who couldn't do the tour after September 11th.
Right.
But Carrie and Jeff, they grab our acoustic guitars. We're drunk out of our minds, sitting on the tour bus. We got videos, whatever, hanging out. We're all playing Slayer songs on acoustic guitar. You know those dudes.
Nice.
They were fucking awesome. And Jeff, rest in peace. But that's how the shit stories turned out with Slayer. Carrie probably still hates me, but it's a funny story.
That's a fucking great story. I've heard bits and pieces of that, but that's fucking awesome to hear the whole thing, man.
There's a version of that on VH1 behind the scenes, like most rock and roll moments. And the way they tell it, they're like, yeah, something about one of the guys in Biohazard covering himself with shit on stage.
Oh, they said that you guys did it. Oh, okay. Good.
Yeah, they don't, because they're confusing the story. They don't have all the details. What I explain is what happened, but the way they tell it is pretty funny, because I still meet people like that don't know, music or whatever. And they're like, what do you do? I'm like, I'm a musician. What band? Biohazard. Never heard of you guys. Wait, I saw you guys on VH1. Didn't one of you guys cover yourself with shit? I'm like, how do you say no to that? It's on TV. It must be true.
Anyway, brother, I got to get running here.
All right, brother. Good way to end the story.
It was perfect. It was a fucking perfect way. I really enjoyed this, man. And I really enjoyed catching up with you.
You too, brother. I appreciate it.
Forever.
Thank you for having me, bud.
Give your new album one more plug. If you got any tours, one more plug.
Yep. Everything's Billy Biohazard everywhere, social media. Reach out to me like you. I talk directly with you guys. It's not some intern at a management company, but the record's called Leaders and Liars. It's on all your streaming networks. I have another tour starting in August. Hopefully that'll happen. We've had 2 tours canceled. I'm optimistically looking forward to getting back on the tour. It's been 2 years, almost 3 years now. I can't wait to be on stage, and that's it. Thanks for your help, brother.
Awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, right there, the mighty Billy GRAZIADEI, Biohazard, Billy Bio, Powerflo.
No fucking regrets!
With ROBB FLYNN.
Yeah.